Hey everyone, it's Rochelle here with Losing It on Keto. And in this video, what I have for you is I am going to make a high protein, low fat, low carb, PSMF, chocolate pie with whipped cream. So how the heck am I going to make this PSMF? Well, I am going to show you. I'm going to put together a combination of things from recent videos and then something new. So let me go ahead and get my saucepan plugged in. I'll tell you what we've got here. All right, I want to put this on medium heat. And I want to do that until this bubbles. So what I have in the saucepan, what I'm making right now is the first step, is I'm making the crust of the pie. Now, this pie crust that I'm choosing to make is the pastry that I made with the chocolate eclair cake. So this is what's referred to as the pâte choux. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm thinking I'll be able to transform this into a pie crust. It was the first thing my nephew said when he had the eclair cake, is that, wow, this will make a great pie crust. So we're going to give it a try. So I have a, sorry you can't see that. Let me move this for you. So I have a pie crust, a pie baking dish here, Pyrex, that I have sprayed with coconut oil spray, and that's what I'm going to bake the pie crust in. As soon as this comes to a boil, just like I did with the chocolate eclair cake, I am going to add in all the quote-unquote flour. So what I have there is 63 grams of whey protein concentrate powder, vanilla, and 47 grams of milk protein concentrate powder, vanilla. So 110 grams that I have whisked together. And as soon as this bubbles, like I said, I'm going to add all that in here. And then I'm going to use a spatula like this to make it a dough. And then if you recall from the eclair cake, then the last step is, after the dough cools, to put it in a food processor with the eggs. 2 eggs, topped off with some egg whites to that total 124 grams, which would then be our binder for our dough, for our crust. So this is boiling. I'm going to go ahead and add in the protein powder. And I'm going to go ahead and mix that all together. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And show that to you. So we've got our dough here. Now I'm going to get the food processor. And we'll put this in. We'll mix this all as soon as this has cooled down. So there you have it. Okay. Now I'm going to put this back here while I get some things out of the way and we get the food processor set up. Okay? So let me move this. Let me move this over and plug it in. And now I'm going to add the dough to this. But we want to make sure we're not cooking the eggs, and I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up. So if you can see the steam that is coming off of this dough right now. So it's too hot to add our eggs to yet. So we'll have to be patient here. Now, one thing that I was debating is that I know when this goes in, it's more like a dough. So this would be more like what you would press into a pie crust, or a pie dish, I should say. But I know once I add 2 eggs and the egg whites totaling up to 124 grams, this becomes more of a batter. So that's why I'm not 100% sure. I'm hoping this will work. All right, let's see. And then I thought, while we wait for this to cool, then I thought, maybe I don't need all of that. Maybe I could get by with just 1 egg for a pie crust. But I'm going to go ahead and do it the same way I did for the eclair cake. And I'm hoping it'll all work out as a pie crust. And then that beep you just heard was the oven coming to temperature. I preheated it at 350 because we're going to bake our pie crust. And so the oven is ready to go as soon as we form this process this dough. And as I'm standing here, I'm contemplating whether I should just put 1 egg in there. And then just incrementally add as I need to. You know what, you guys? I'm going to do that. I already have here prepared the 2 eggs, and then I needed 12 grams of liquid egg whites. But you know what? I am going to scoop this out and get 1 of the eggs. Because I think that is going to work more for a pie crust versus the watery, the more liquidy result we got for the pastry. So let's see. Let's see how we did here. I'll show you what we've got. That's what we've got. This is much more. I think I'm going to go with this, you guys. Yep. Yes, I do. Now I'm going to press this down into the pie dish. Let's see. going to assume that 1 egg and whatever egg white I got with it is going to be enough. Let me take this glove off. I need a spatula to spoon this out. Let's see, here we go. And who knows, I might regret not adding parchment paper to this versus just spraying it. Okay, let me see if I can press this in. And actually, let me get the rest of this dough, or as close to the rest of it as possible here. One thing I wanted to check is, was this more dough than what we needed for a pie crust? But I'm thinking if I build it up along the sides, this should be the perfect amount. All right, let me put my glove back on. And let me see what I can do with this here. I'm really liking just adding the one egg here. I think I am going to regret not putting parchment paper down, but you live, you learn. Do that for the next time. Okay. Okay, let me spread this out. All right, this glove isn't working too well. Let's take that off. And what I probably should do, which is what I am going to do if I can, I'm going to get some spray and spray my hands. Okay, so I just sprayed my hands with a little bit of avocado oil. There we go. There's a pro tip to make this a little bit easier so it's not sticking. And I'll tell you, I could have added all the eggs to this and made this a more liquid crust, and that certainly would have been easier to spread on the bottom. Okay, let me do a little more. If you see any holes on the bottom, just fill them in. This dough is sticky enough that it plugs well. But my main concern with this is I don't want these pockets are really thick dough. So I'm trying to thin this out up the sides, and it's a little tricky, but it's going to work here. And I think this is a little, this is a considerably better approach than taking, like, I think, I'll admit I didn't look too deeply into it, but trying to, what it seemed like to me was trying to take a PSMF bread loaf recipe and convert that to a pie crust. I wanted no part of that. All right, so as soon as I fix this, patch this area here, this is going to be ready to go in the oven. And just about there. All right, I think that's about as good as I'm going to be able to do. Again, let me plug this hole here. All right, and now I'm going to put this in the oven for, now it depends on your use. For this use here, I'm going to plan to make it the whole time, bake it fully. So I'm thinking that's going to be the same time as I did my pastry, which is 22 minutes. Now, if I was making another pie, which I am going to do, I've got a couple ideas for pies. If I was making another one, like I have plans to make an apple pie, I would par bake this. So it depends on your use. So I would think if I was going to par bake it, maybe that's 10 minutes. Whereas this, because I want to bake it fully, I'm going to go for 22 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in, and I'll be back in the next segment. Okay guys, we're back in this segment. Now I'm going to start the Jell-O, and I've made this. It was the first Jell-O recipe that I put together this year. So if you go a couple months back, you'll see it. I'll include a link to that video. But what I have here is I've got 3.5 cups of my keto milk. And remember, my keto milk is 3 parts water to 1 part whole milk. And I have a 1/2 cup here. Now, I want 90 grams of a protein powder. You can use an unflavored whey. I've done it with beef. I've done it with the Quip, chocolate beef. That worked pretty well. And then I've also used a casein. So I am going to use a, actually that's vanilla I have here. You know what, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and use a, I'm debating whether I should use my chocolate Equip, which is a beef based, or just use my plain milk protein. I'm going to use my plain milk protein. I use my chocolate Equip for my brownies, the ones with the egg whites. All right. So I need 90 grams of this. Just about there. And just a tad bit more. Okay. Then we need, let's see here. We need 45 grams of cocoa powder. We'd go less if I had used a, so that'll be 135. If I had used a chocolate protein powder. A little bit more. Okay, perfect. All right, and then we need, let's see, we need some salt. So I'll do a half a teaspoon of salt. Okay. And then the only other thing, and I'm going to cook this on high, medium high rather. So we'll start that. And then the only other thing I need to do is add a tablespoon and a half of gelatin to my half a cup of keto milk here. So there's 1 tablespoon, and there's another half a tablespoon. So we'll add that there, get this out of the way. And then the only other thing that I'm going to need is I am going to sweeten this a little bit. And I'm going to use I could use my Better Stevia, but I'm going to go ahead and use my RX Sugar, the organic chocolate. And I'm just going to do a squirt in there. Now, because I'm using this pie and I want more of a jello, I'm not adding any tarragon or glucomannan powder because the gelatin will be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and use a little whisk here and get the protein powder incorporated in here with the milk. And then I'll use my whisk there to make sure I get the corners of the saucepan. This was my first recipe this year of making the sweets, and then of the pudding or jello, my protein jello I believe is what I called it, and then I wound up tweaking this to make it a protein and wound up making several variations of this year. But this is the one that I decided to use for this chocolate pie. But it's up to you. If you want more of a pudding, then you have my videos from that time of how to make pudding. Very simple. None of them require cooking. This is the only one that does. You can put it in the blender, your protein powder with your keto milk. And then you can add the tarragon and the glucomannan powder so that you get, or just the tarragon if you're using keto chow, to get your pudding texture. And if you're using keto chow, the tarragon is all you need. Okay, there's a lump of cocoa powder here I'm just looking to get rid of, and then I'm going to switch whisks here. All right, I'll get that with the other whisk. Now, one thing I could, sometimes I add acacia fiber to this if I didn't use keto chow. So I was debating as to whether or not to do that here. I think I'm going to forgo that. Okay, let me get my whisk. And what I want here is I want to bring this to a bubble. And then once I do, and because this is 3.5 cups of milk, keto milk, mostly water, it'll take a few minutes. But once I do, then I'm going to add it to this bloom gelatin mixture here. And our pie crust is baking. It's got 6 minutes left. Let me turn the light on. Let me see how that's going. Looks like it's going okay, and I just dropped my microphone. All right. So we're going to want this to set up, once it's done, we're going to want this to set up in the refrigerator, okay? But here's the thing. Because I'm choosing to make a jello, so that means a firmer texture, I don't want this to set up fully in the refrigerator, because then I would have a hard time taking it out and getting it as my pie filling. So what I want to do is I just want this to set up just enough in the refrigerator, say 30 minutes to an hour. And then I'm going to take it out, and by then my pie crust will be fully cooled down. And at that point, what I'm going to do is I am going to add it to the pie crust. But I don't want to do it right away, because if it's liquidy, then I don't want to ruin the integrity of the pie crust by adding such a liquid filling. So that's why I want it to set up a little bit. And then you're going to have to use your judgment as to when it's set up enough that you'll maintain the integrity of the pie crust. And I'll give you some clues after I do it. Now, if you're doing a pudding, then you can put this in your pie crust right away after the pie crust cools. Okay, and then another tip that I wanted to share with you that I realized off camera, because I took a little bit of extra time to press the pie crust down to get it up the sides and get it a little more thin. If it's sticking on you like it had started to do to me, besides just spraying your hands with a little bit of oil and pressing that in, what you could do is you can throw the pie dish into the refrigerator or even the freezer. Say in the refrigerator for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and in the freezer for 15. And then it'll be much easier to work with and press it out into the shape that you want. You know, to thin it out, press it up the sides of your pie dish, etc. So I did want to mention that. So if you chill it, it'll be easier to work with and won't stick on you. All right, this is starting to thicken a little bit. Not quite yet where it's starting to bubble. The first time I made this, and then I made a variety, I used unflavored whey protein concentrate. And I added 4 grams of acacia fiber to it. And then did the 45 grams or 6 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So that video is on my channel as well. At the same time, I made all of these pudding and jello. I made them all around the same time, where I did the 4 versions to show you the difference between a whey, a beef protein, and then keto chow, which is a milk protein isolate, and then a milk protein concentrate or a casein, which from my research, casein seems to be 80% milk protein concentrate and 20% whey. So somebody had asked me, or you'll hear it referenced as casein, but then you hear me say milk protein isolate or milk protein concentrate, and I wondered what the difference was, and I think casein has, well, actually I shouldn't say that. I know the milk protein concentrate I just ordered is 80% milk protein powder and 20% whey as well. But I also know casein is too. So, I don't know. It trips me up. So I guess, I don't know. And then you have milk protein isolate. Does that mean the isolate, it doesn't have any whey? That's probably what it means. The only isolate that I have found is that which is in Keto Chow. The milk protein that I purchase is a concentrate from both Smart 38 and It's Just. And that's fresh in my memory because I just ordered some more last night. Okay, this is definitely thickening up because it's coming to the top of my saucepan here. All right, this is definitely a rolling boil. It's bubbling. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Oh, I was hoping not to spill. I'm going to go ahead and add that now to this gelatin mixture. And it's perfect timing because now the pie crust is going off. So it's been 22 minutes on the pie crust. Okay, you guys, I am going to go ahead and clean up this mess. I'm going to get let this Jell-O cool down. For a little bit, and then I'm going to get it into the refrigerator and let it set a little bit before I add it to the pie crust. So let me turn the oven off. Let me get this stuff out of the way. And let me make sure this is well mixed. Okay, which it is. Okay, so we've got that gelatin in there. That's going to be the key to making our Jell-O, protein Jell-O. Okay, let me rinse this off. Okay, and let me get something here to clean this while this is cooling. And let me get this unplugged. Okay. All right, let me get this out of the way so I can show you the pie crust. All right, sorry, I'm gonna have to move the camera so I can open the oven. Okay. And I just knocked off my microphone here. All right. Ooh, look at how lovely. Darn, that worked well. I think I made an absolute right call on just using the one egg. But I can't wait to put this all together. Look at how nice that pie crust looks. Let me bring the camera closer. Here we go. There we go. Look at how golden brown, and it didn't stick to the sides, you guys. It actually pulled away. Let me see what we're dealing with here. Ooh, Let me see if I can show you that. Look at that, you guys. Nice. And you see, I forgot to mention I did it off camera, but I put a fork in here to create some venting. Okay. I need to let that cool a little bit. So, I'm going to let the pie crust cool. I got to let the Jell-O cool before I refrigerate. So let me do those things and I'll come back in the next segment when I think these are cooled enough that I can add the chocolate pudding filling to the pie. Okay, I'll be back. Okay guys, I'm back in this segment. It's been about an hour or so. And I think this is thickened up enough that I feel comfortable that I can add this into the pie and not ruin the integrity of the pie crust. I think it's thick enough. I took the lid off and I saw there was a lot of condensation, so I guess I didn't let it cool long enough before I put it in the refrigerator. But anyways, I realized I made a mistake. And I wanted to come back here before I fill the pie crust. And that is, I added very, very, very little sweetener. So this needs sweetener. I am going to do the Better Stevia chocolate here. Give this a good squirt. And we'll see if we need any more after that. There's something I recently learned, so a heads up on this. The flavored Better Stevia has alcohol in it. In fact, it's 10%. So just heads up on that. I've never heard any of the people who use it mention that it has alcohol in it. So I was actually surprised to learn that. So if that's an issue for you, if you get the unflavored one, be it the larger bottle or the smaller one, these do not. Okay, so that's just something I recently learned and I thought I would share. All right, let's see if I need any more sweetener. No, that's beautiful. So it doesn't require much, so you saw that. All right, I am going to go ahead and pour this in now. This is also answering something else for me. I didn't know if this was the proper amount of pudding or Jell-O for the pie dish, and I just answered that. It's perfect. So, perfect. All right. So I'm going to go set this in the refrigerator now, and I'll set it overnight, and we'll come back in the next segment and hoping it is set and ready for the whipped topping. Okay, I'll see you back in the next segment. Okay, we're back in this segment. It is about 12 hours later. The pie has set, as you can see. And you can see on the bottom here, my concern that it was too liquidy to, for the pie crust to hold I thought I had waited long enough, and that was confirmed because you see it didn't soak through the pie crust on the bottom, so that's looking really good. So now we're going to do the last step, which is to top this with the whipped cream. Now, I have never made this before. I'm trying to make a PSMF whipped cream, and I want this whipped cream to be able to stabilize. So, so I'm going to add some cream of tartar and some beef gelatin. So I'm incorporating some of the learning from the PSMF Rice Krispie treats and the Laffy Taffy, where I took the beef gelatin with the water and whipped that into almost like a stiff peak. So I'm relying on that along with the cream of tartar. I don't think the cream of tartar by itself will keep it as a stiff peak. Will stabilize it, I should say. And so consequently, I'm adding the beef gelatin. So let's see how this goes. So I've got all the ingredients here, and I'm going to use I could use a hand mixer, but I'm going to use a stand mixer. I want 100 grams, and I may have to adjust. I think this is going to cover the pie. So first thing, I'm going to use 100 grams of pasteurized egg whites. So for this, you want liquid egg whites because you want them to be pasteurized because you're going to be eating this raw. And if you want to double this, if you like lots of whipped cream, you can. I think this, like I said, will be enough to cover the pie. All right, so there's the 100 grams. Now let's do a quarter teaspoon of cream of tartar. And then I want to do a tablespoon of gelatin. Oops. Because I'm going by, like I said, sort of the same strategy I used for the Rice Krispie treats and the Laffy Taffy. So let's get this. And then, while we're mixing this into stiff peaks, I'll prepare the powders. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, put that on high. So we'll let that do its thing. And then what we're going to want to do is and I got to figure this out. But let me let this finish, and then I'll come back. So I'm not talking over the noise. Okay, I had this mixing for just a couple of minutes. I think it's pretty good right now. You can see how stiff it is. So I'm just going to get that off the whisk. We'll see if we need this anymore. But you see, that's when it's ready. When I can't shake that. All right, so now we want this to be like a cream. Like a dairy, I should say. So, to make this more of like a dairy, like a whipped cream, versus a meringue, we want to add some extracts. So, to this, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of imitation butter. And I'm going to do the same with vanilla. And I'm going to fold that in. Okay. So let me mix that in. Just going to fold it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the protein powder. So I've looked to replace an instant pudding. And I know the difference between an instant pudding and my milk protein or a cook and serve is modified cornstarch. And so I'm using a protein powder to replace a cornstarch. And I know from the eclair cake that I need 3 times as much milk protein powder to replace a cornstarch. So we're gonna, I put that knowledge to use here, but we're gonna see how it works out. I may have to add a little more. So in this bowl, what I have, and actually I need to whisk this together. I've got 20 grams of a vanilla milk protein powder. So I've got milk casein from Muscle Feast vanilla. And then I have 20 grams of a keto-friendly sweetener. And I believe I've got the Lakanto monk fruit powdered sweetener, the one that's in the baby blue bag. So I've whisked that well together. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that to this. And I'm going to fold it in. Nice going, Rochelle. All right, let's see how that works out. So not only am I looking for texture here, obviously I'm looking for taste as well. And what I'm going for is to replace a Cool Whip. Okay, that's folded in nicely. I think we'll have plenty of whipped cream for the pie. And now, the next things to check are the taste and whether this in fact stabilizes for, a couple days or so. Because even, I have to tell you, even my keto cream, whipped cream, will start to destabilize. All right, so let me give this, actually, let me show you this. So this is what it's looking like. Let me give this a little bit of a taste here. Oh yeah. Yep, that works. I would say you definitely need the vanilla protein powder for that to make it more of a dairy. So that was a good call on that. Okay, so I'm going to now go ahead. I'm not going to pipe this. You certainly could make this fancy, but I'm just going to go ahead and spread this on the pie here. So like I said, one of the things I'm looking to test is how long this, did I achieve the stabilization of this that I'm looking for. And of course I'm looking ahead because I'm looking to continue to do PSMF through Thanksgiving and such. And so I've got some ideas that I'm working on for a PSMF friendly pumpkin pie. And I've got something I'm noodling, not that the whipped cream will apply, although I guess it could. An apple pie, PSMF friendly. All right, this is looking like it's a perfect amount of whipped cream. So far, I couldn't be happier with this. And like I said, if you wanted to make this fancy, you could see how well this would work in piping it. And I'd be curious also to try different types of vanilla. So if you have a vanilla protein powder you're particularly fond of, the flavor, because it's so hard to get a vanilla flavor, try that. Or you could even try a plain milk protein powder and add your own. So I'm thinking of like the emulsions. I've got a butter vanilla flavor. All right. So if you're wondering, this does not taste like meringue at all. It has no taste of egg whites in it whatsoever. If anything, it's probably a little sweet for my taste. So I think next time I'm gonna cut back a little bit on the powdered sweetener, because I'd probably go with 10 less grams, or maybe none at all, because the protein powder is already sweetened. All right, I want to just do a little fancy. Yeah. All right, so I just sprinkled a little bit of cocoa powder on top, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover this and put this in the refrigerator because, like I said, I'm very curious to know how this sets. So I'll come back and let you know, and we'll give it a taste test, texture test, etc. See you back then. Okay, back in this segment. It's been a few hours, and based on how this is, I see no issue with worrying about this destabilizing, deflating, etc. I think this is going to be just perfect, and I think that protein powder, the gelatin, the cream of tartar are all doing its job. So I am anxious, I am anxious to give this a try. So in the macros for this, I have calculated, in fact, look at that. There's no problem stabilizing. I've calculated this pie as 8 servings. And I guess I didn't cut that very, whoops, very uniformly. So the macros on this are fantastic. Maybe I want to even go a little less protein powder. But anyways, let me share the macros for one slice. Assuming you don't do what I did and you make sure you get 8 uniform slices. But for one slice of this, it's 118 calories, 20 grams of protein, 3 grams of fat, 2 total and net carbs for a protein to energy ratio of 4.5. So very, very PSMF friendly. I'm not gonna do a whole one. I'm just gonna take half of a smaller one here because I'm just curious to do a taste and texture test here. Look at that, you guys. All right. Here we go. There's the bottom. Everything worked beautifully. And you can control, like I said, whether you want this more as a jello or whether you want more of a, like a French soap, more of a pudding type consistency. Excellent. Look at that, you guys. Awesome. And I'm encouraged that I'm going to be able to figure out a PSMF friendly pumpkin pie. And yeah, and of course, PSMF friendly pumpkin pie means I'm going to have to get the pumpkin flavor but without adding pumpkin. We'll see. But I'm encouraged based on this. So there we have it. Beautiful. And I've been doing a number of these types of recipes lately because the holidays are coming upon us. And for me, this year is a game changer in that I've learned from years past, I do not maintain my weight eating keto through the holidays by having keto treats through the holidays. But PSMF, I certainly do, and beyond. I lose weight on PSMF. So trying to figure out ways to make holiday favorites PSMF friendly is a key for me. I'm sharing it with you. And so hence why I've made a number of these types of recipes of late, and more to come. So hopefully this was helpful. I hope you make it. I hope this supports your way of eating and your goals. And that'll do it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.